If you make games, you've probably run into this problem where you make a world, you add an entity, you can move around the entities and, place objects in the world, but really you want an editor. So you've probably ended up pushing random keys like A does something magical, B does something else magical, and by the time you know it, your whole keyboard does magical things depending on all sorts of key presses. I made it my goal to set out to create something awesome to alleviate the need for magic and actually do something planned and useful. So it's not so much what key does what. You have an editor pop up and it's very easy to know how to do things. So this is the OverGameEditor, a framework for Windows games. It doesn't even matter what framework the game uses, it should be able to work with anything. So you have the edit area here, which is empty because we've done nothing with it. You have a status bar, which just says ready because we've done nothing with it. And you also have a menu bar that's not existing because, again, we've done nothing with it. So let's make this do something awesome. Let's take and define a bunch of actions so that we can create a menu for these actions. Come down to the loading. And so we tie the menu to those actions. But at this point, nothing's actually happening. We just have the menu bar. So we'd really like to make the menu do something when the designer clicks on a button. So we come up to this nice handle action function and add a quick bit of code to reset the player back to where he initially started. This red square is the player, if anyone was wondering. So let's bring up the editor. See, now we have a menu. And we can reset the player. It's really not that big in terms of functionality, but it shows that the menu is working and you can do things with it. But that's not all this can do. We can play with the status bar. First, we'll break it up into 3 parts so that we can display the status of what's going on as well as the position of the player. And we'll make a simple hello world just because that will be easy. So here we go. We have the working hello world 00, but it's not tied to player movement. Just a couple more calls within an update. And now we should have it attached to the player movement. So you have these numbers updating based on wherever the player is positioned. But the real guts of this editor framework comes with the edit area. It allows you to edit variables on the fly in real time without, with just awesomeness. Let's leave it at that. Awesome. So here we go. We got the player name. Can change it. Can change the player position. And you can notice it updates in real time. You can change the player's width and the height. And you can make it so he doesn't move when we enter this. No longer moving, but we want him to be able to move, so but that's not all this editor can do. We can also edit files. So pretend this player name that I just added down at the bottom is actually a texture path or a model path or some other asset path. You can open it up and there you go. It changed it to a file, which is absolutely great for those times that you're changing assets and you need to be able to browse for files. It's much more convenient to do that rather than type it all the time. And it can also change the class type. So let's make a enum sort of thing of strings. So we have a bunch of static strings for tank, jet, ship, tree, kitten, and we're going to change the player's class, or entity class actually, the entity class of the player. So now we will run it. We have kitten. Now I want the player to be a jet or a ship. You just change it right there. That easy. But there's one more nice feature to this editor framework, which would be a context menu. So when you right click, you can have an action specify, bring a menu and mess with that. Let's define some actions. Let's create the right click context menu. And then let's handle those actions from that context menu. It would seem I missed a step. Or I didn't actually miss a step, I just needed to enter the editor before trying to right click. So now we can change the color of the square by these awesome actions. So in the end, the idea of this is so that you can create a very awesome editor with all functionality you need, being able to edit all the variables, look for textures or assets, tell the user what's going on, have right click so that you can right click on whatever entity, you can build this context menu for, like, say you click on a tree and you want tree specific contexts come up. That's what the context menu is for. It's just pure amazing. I hope you enjoyed this and maybe you'll check out the editor framework. Enjoy.